Hey everyone, it's Jason and I'm back with a weekly update on my SAO game. But before we get into the update, this video is sponsored by GameMaker. GameMaker is the fastest and friendliest cross-platform game development engine, and whether you're a beginner who has just started out creating games or an experienced developer, GameMaker is a great software that will make your game dev process much easier. With GameMaker, what you can create is limitless. Just in case you have doubts about what GameMaker can do for you, some of the most successful games are made with GameMaker, such as Undertale and Hyper Light Drifter, which are still one of my favorite games. My point is that anyone can create a successful project with GameMaker. An indie game developer from Malaysia who goes by the name Nerduk is able to provide a living for his family with his games created in GameMaker. He says that the best feature of GameMaker is the speed, and that's because GameMaker has every tool you need for game dev inside the game engine itself, so you never need to download any other softwares for art and programming. Honestly, speaking about programming, you never need to write a single line of code. By using the drag and drop feature, you don't need to have extensive knowledge in programming to create a game you desire. But if you still get stuck, GameMaker provides a wide range of both video and written tutorials for different skill levels within the engine, so that you can learn and create your game in one place. There's also a big community where you can connect with thousands of other game devs to share and learn from each other by joining the forum, Discord, and Reddit, so you'll have endless opportunity to learn and create great games together. You can start a free trial with a link in the description, and if you do end up checking it out, feel free to share it in the comment section below or leave a gameplay in the Discord channel. If you remember from the last devlog, I've experienced some issues with using URP because of a lot of performance issues and decided to switch to using forward rendering on the default pipeline. Well, good news is that a lot of the lag seemed to disappear when I started testing it on my Quest device. I had to recreate a lot of the environment again, but anyways, it seems to be working just fine, and I've updated the APK on the itch.io page. In the last video, I've added the models for the walls inside the center of Town of Beginnings. This time, I decided to work on the environment outside of the wall to expand the town. Notably, I'm trying to recreate a scene similar to that of Tobana, which is the closest settlement to the first floor's labyrinth, where the first floor boss lives in Sword Art Online. Once again, the artists from the Poison Studios have come up with a really good quality assets for the game, which I can definitely use to expand the town. And at the end of the first week, I started fiddling around with how I could incorporate skills into the game. In the end, I wanted to add a movement tracking to the controller so that whenever the player swipes in a certain direction or makes a certain shape, it would cast a certain type of skills. But before that, I wanted to add a UI for the skill slots so that it will show the information and the cooldowns whenever the player uses the skills. By setting the image type to be filled with a radial sprite and Unity editor, it was pretty simple to implement the progress bar for the experience and the skill cooldown indicators. By setting the percentage on the fill value, I was able to create pretty simple UI bars. For example, another VR game like Zenith seems to be using a pretty similar UI for using the skill cooldowns. Instead, they use a rhombus shape to display the skills. So now that I have some kind of a UI to display the skills, I need to add the actual particle systems and the movement tracking to cast the skills. For now, I wanted to track vertical, diagonal, and horizontal movement to use different skills. Vertical tracking was pretty easy to implement as I just needed to take the Y coordinate of the local position of the controller and calculate it using the start and end position. Similarly, for the diagonal movement, I tried using the X coordinate of the controller to find the offset between the start and end point to determine if the player has just swiped down or made a diagonal movement. However, I found that later on it wasn't really accurate, so another solution that I came up with was creating an invisible area near certain spots of the character so that whenever the controller touches the area, I know where the player is swiping. And with that, the movement tracking seemed to be almost working. I hooked up the skills effects with the UI using the event system that I created from the last video to display the cooldowns on the player UI. Now, another thing that I needed to implement is a collision for the skill effect. One common solution for detecting particle collision is the on-particle collision function that Unity provides, which is very similar to the on-collision-enter method for physics material. However, in the end, what I actually needed was something similar to that of on-particle trigger, where the physics collision doesn't happen with the particle. Unity does provide on-particle trigger method, which exists, but currently they don't provide a way to determine which object the particle triggered with, which is apparently something that they are working on. So instead, I took the approach of creating a custom trigger area and manually getting the particle position from script to have the collision box follow the particle position. And I remember from the last devlog, I did show you guys in the end how the first floor boss looked like. I haven't finished the boss fight implementation yet, but I wanted to see the model in Unity, which was a work done by a 3D modeler called Valero Marcel, who has in my opinion created a super good quality game asset than what I've paid for. I've decided to give it a very simple humanoid rig and gave it a little bit of animation to see how it looks in Unity. It seems like his pants keep falling off sometimes, so I'll need to fix the rig a little bit and also add the bones on the tails and mouth eventually. But I'm liking the look so far in the game. One person suggested to use the energy bar on the shield so that the player won't be able to spam the blocks on the enemy attacks, so below the mana bar I put an optional energy bar that will be used whenever the player blocks the attack with the shield. One thing that I could probably work on is incorporating the shield stats into the energy so that if the shield has greater defense points, it will use less energy bars. Also, another small thing that I added is if you try to push away the enemy further with your shield, it's going to knock the enemy further away depending on the controller velocity. From the last devlog, I've created a basic system for attack damages and defense points on the weapons and shields, so I just needed to hook this up on the damage script when the player attacks the enemies and also when the player gets attacked by the enemy. Aside from the energy and mana regen, I also just added a small healing effect on the potion and a little health bar indicators on the player UI. Lastly, I wanted to add a curved UI on my canvas since it gives the player a wider visibility for the user interface. For this, I've decided to add a curved UI by Cheel, which lets you easily build a curved UI for your VR games or actually any other types of games. One problem that I ran into is that the button actually doesn't work when I added the curved UI component on the canvas. I emailed the developer about it and he replied that if I use the extra interaction toolkit that has a 1.0 version, I'll need to use a later version of curved UI package, which he's supposed to be sending me soon, and hopefully that's gonna fix it. Aside from my VR game, I've been also secretly putting a little bit of time on bringing my models into my Roblox game and making some small progress to something that I can showcase for fun. I'm hoping to post a devlog of the progress of my Roblox game for my next video, so the next one's probably not going to be a VR one, but I'll make sure to post an update on my VR game on my Discord channel and my Patreon page, so I'll look forward to seeing you guys there. Some things that I'm probably going to be working on for my VR game would be to investigate how to implement multiplayer and finishing the boss mechanics. And as always, good luck on everything you're doing, and I'll see you guys on the next video.